To start today's video, I thought I'd point out something I noticed yesterday. Monday, Matt and Alex Jones covered an article that I covered 3 days ago. While you both got many more views because you have larger subscriber bases, which we will talk about in a moment, I still got there first. Get good, scrubs. And to lead on from the subscriber-based comment, thank you all to the 20,000+ of you that have subscribed to this channel. Ordinarily I would shill a whole bunch of channels, but there are far too many that I would want to, and not enough time. So instead I'm just going to recommend you check out Suit Yourself on BitChute, Bearing on BitChute, and my friend Red Robot, all linked in the description. Now the subject of today's video is two topics. The first one is going to be talking about Tommy Robinson, because let's face it, this is pretty messed up. The second will be some bullshit. So to get a very basic understanding of what happened, we're going to borrow a clip from Irate Bear, who's going to explain what happened to Tommy, and then I'm going to explain the fallout, along with subsequent protests, and the media representation of those protests.
This morning, the 25th of May 2018, Tommy Robinson was arrested outside a Leeds court where some of those peaceful people were, well, basically dealing with their court trial over grooming, and Tommy Robinson was outside trying to speak to them. They were being incredibly aggressive. Hell, one of them even threatened to behead one of the ladies that was with Tommy Robinson, and Tommy Robinson was the one who was arrested by the police, put in the back of a police van for incitement to disturb the peace. So hopefully he is released soon, and hopefully he doesn't end up in prison again. Here's the clip.
The content of what I'm streaming, I've been arrested for breach of the peace. Are you arresting him? I've been arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Just turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what I've just said?
No, can you explain it again?
Arrested on suspicion causing a breach of the peace.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, officer? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? This is ridiculous, lads. Do you feel right what you're doing it? I haven't said a word. In fact, someone laid their hand and assaulted me outside court. Yeah, exactly. Other people swore at me and threatened me about my mother, and here I am being arrested for saying nothing.
I'm threatened to behead
I've done
me.
nothing.
You've not said anything about
What are you arresting you for, Tommy?
Breach of the peace. Apparently I'm inciting on my video. Can you please, George, get me a solicitor?
Now since all of this has happened, there have been a number of articles and comments I've heard from people saying he will serve 13 months in prison now. Let's hope not, shall we? Last thing we need is him getting butt-fucked by extremists in prison that have been heavily reported on, most recently in Sargon of Akkad's video, which I will link in the description if you have not already seen it. So the best article to go for would be the article from Hull Live itself, where it says former EDL leader Tommy Robinson being held in Hull prison after arrest. He was arrested on Friday for allegedly breaching the peace outside a court during an ongoing grooming trial in Leeds. What sucks here is that I didn't know a thing about the grooming trial at all, because if I did, I would have made a video on it. Much like Telford, much like Rotherham, much like any other place that I hear about it, I will make a video on it. And there is one growing trend with all of them. You know what it is? But I don't want to be accused of inciting here. A source has now told Hull Live that Mr. Robinson is being held in HMP Hull. Mr. Robinson allegedly showed men entering Leeds Crown Court for a grooming trial, where he claimed to be reporting on a case. His claims were true, he was live streaming it. And I guess, it is a subjective argument as to whether or not he is a, quote, legitimate reporter, I guess. But he has been active on social media, YouTube especially, for quite a while now, showing quite a number of different arguments and reporting on quite a number of different cases. Grooming has been one that, certainly if in Leeds, has somehow gone under the radar. Somebody had mentioned to me, a number of people had in fact mentioned to me that to protect the court justice system itself it hadn't been reported on. Well, I think that's a load of bollocks, because we have heard of a number of cases. We've heard of a lot of them, but we don't hear about a certain type of case, which is somehow deemed too sensitive. You know, much like that evidence that somehow manages to go unchecked for so long that would have otherwise had a accused of rape person found innocent. It's that same kind of bollocks that quite frankly astonishes me that my country is so far cucked. Then again, oh wow, Yorkshire Police I'll get to you later. You are an embarrassment. It is understood his arrest was for an alleged breach of the peace and incitement. Now he has stated, as you heard in the video, this isn't contempt of court. It isn't. He is reporting that it is happening. But of course that is a debated and subjective thing entirely. Contempt of court is a criminal offence that can see people jailed for speeches or publications that create a substantial risk that the court of justice in the proceedings in question will be seriously impeded or prejudiced. It's a paedophile thing, a grooming thing, it's I don't know how to describe it without sounding like I'm going to incite some hate. Mr. Robinson is already serving a suspended sentence for committing contempt of court during a gang rape case last year. He was handed a 3-month jail sentence, but saw it suspended for 18 months, so when people said he'd be in jail for 13 months, I believe he'll be doing the 3 months.
Tommy does this all the time. He's transitioned into an independent journalist, yet despite him being physically threatened yesterday, and despite a woman he was with being threatened with a beheading from one of our peaceful cultural enrichers, Tommy was the one who was arrested, thrown into the back of a police van, and if I have this correct, was sentenced to 13 months in prison that very same day.
Which in the long run I don't actually think would negatively affect his chances or his successes on YouTube. In fact, if anything, this will just bolster the beliefs. This does not help anyone trying to argue against him. Although I have watched a number of debates, and the deluded ultra-far leftists who believe they beat him or beat someone who is on the right is astonishing. And no, I'm not on the right, for fuck's sake. Get that into your heads. Although now that I have had a chance to think about it, there is a high chance he is going to end up getting fisted by some imam. Seriously, watch Sargon's video, you'll understand why. The extremism in prison is astonishing. It's kind of like grooming, but on an adult scale, with an ideology several hundred years behind the rest of the world that refuses to leave that era. Anyway, I'm going to link this article in the description if you are at all any more interested in reading it for context. Now, there is fallout from this, because there were some protests yesterday, and the protests were of interest. They were outside Downing Street. There were some live streams I was told about by a patron of mine called Skog, whose channel I'm going to link in the description. Please consider subscribing to him. He's very close to 100 subscribers. But they're very patchy. Very patchy. I will try and link them in the description if you want to check them out, but they were not in very good quality, so I'm not going to play them. But the Evening Standard interested me with this, and the fallout from that protest about this. Hundreds of far-right protesters descend on Whitehall after Tommy Robinson arrested for breaching the peace. Based on what I saw, and what another patron of mine saw, it was a lot of normies. I think this kind of nonsense assumption, which you can't prove that there was more than a dozen. You'd have to actually go up to them and say, are you far right? Are you far left? Are you centrist? Or are you edgy? Whitehall had to be closed to traffic as a huge group gathered outside Downing Street, chanting Mr. Robinson's name. Well, look what's happened. Arresting him for supposed contempt or inciting, has made him almost a martyr at this point. This does not make anyone else look better. It makes Tommy Robinson alone look better, because he is by definition still defending freedom of speech. And you have literally censored him. The incident has triggered a furious reaction from his fans, who could be heard chanting, "Shame on you" outside Whitehall. And yes, okay, we have one clip from a Twitter video that is linked in this article from the Evening Standard. Fantastic. Police officers could be seen attempting to keep the demonstration under control as violence threatened to break out at one point, with some protesters pushing officers. Oh god, and the hashtag Free Tommy. Oh no. See what you've done? Many protesters could be seen holding aloft hashtag Free Tommy signs or waving flags, including the St. George's Cross, which is considered racist, even though it's a flag. What sucks here is that no one here is actually wrong. They're arguing that he should be freed because what he did wasn't inciting. In fact, and it was again by a patron pointed out to me, quite rightly so, that his mere presence alone was enough to trigger a response. So surely by that logic, he should always be locked up, because the moment he is seen, he's like the boogeyman. He somehow just incites a volatile response. Now granted, his background is against him. Founding the EDL does him no favours. But this man is fighting for the very freedom of speech that you are trying to silence, and he did not incite anything. We now know it wasn't because he was live streaming it, which some believed it was because of the threat to the justice system, because you didn't arrest his team. Only him. Only Tommy Robinson. Which tells me you are inconsistent as fuck. Have I overrun? I think I've overrun. I'll cover the other bullshit tomorrow. I hope everyone has a lovely day, especially as it's a bank holiday tomorrow, although I'll be making a video tomorrow anyway. And thank you all for listening. Oh, one more thing. In 2016, I did a Cthulhu 2016 campaign run as for president. I made these short videos. Now I've shown them to some people, and they were on my second channel public for a long time before I rebranded it to a political discussion channel. If you want me to put them in as a compilation on Friday, as like a shitpost of Friday, so you could see the kind of stuff I was doing when I was supposedly funny, air quotes around that, please let me know in the comments below.